Behind palace gates and parliamentary doors, a single scheduling clash is turning into the most perilous constitutional jigsaw the House of Windsor has faced in a generation. Can the Crown celebrate the Queen's milestone 80th birthday and salute the Invictus spirit without letting the world glimpse its deepest family fault lines? An expanding tangle of timetables and tempers. Each new dawn seems to add another moving part. Palace call sheets show private secretary briefings creeping earlier into the morning. Cabinet office planners mutter about triple-layer weekend risks. Treasury counters demand cost sign-off for 4, then 5, then 6 alternative scenarios. Civil servants who once prided themselves on mastering the choreography of royal weddings now admit, sotto voce, that this puzzle feels closer to staging 2 concurrent state visits with no guarantee the principals will meet. Why so fraught? Because the closing ceremony of the 2027 Invictus Games in Birmingham, Prince Harry's flagship Veterans Project, lands on the very Saturday that Buckingham Palace has reserved for a nationwide salute to Queen Camilla's 8 decades. Neither is easily shifted. Corporate sponsors have poured millions into the Invictus timetable. Cathedral choirs and overseas dignitaries are already penciled into the Windsor celebration. Move one, and you imperil a web of commitments. Move both, and you risk looking hapless. Move neither, and the monarchy may be forced into its most conspicuous split-screen moment since the days of Edward VIII. A silence that roars. Officially, the palace line remains a sphinx-like no comment. Unofficially, aides concede that William's refusal even to acknowledge his brother's invitation borders on a statement in itself. Courtiers say the Prince of Wales believes reconciliation cannot be a public stunt, fearing every handshake would be framed through a Sussex lens. One aide, after a particularly fraught diary meeting, muttered that the prince won't be press-ganged by press releases. Yet that very silence breeds its own headlines. Evening news bulletins now carry daily speculation pie charts. Will the king attend both events, one or neither? Radio phone-ins field callers asking why the royals cannot simply act like any other family, sit down at a table and sort it. Editors know the vacuum invites melodrama. Some relish it, others plead for clarity. Inside the war rooms. Across town, Whitehall is running 3 parallel command posts. At the Home Office, counter-terror planners scale models of Birmingham's Victoria Square, plotting containment zones, should the king suddenly appear for a veterans reception. Over at the Department for Culture, officials weigh the optics of televised birthday tributes airing while social feeds erupt with Invictus medal clips. Meanwhile, the Treasury crunches overtime bills for thousands of police officers, who may have to cover simultaneous VIP movements on opposite sides of the country. Military liaison units feel the squeeze too. The Army's Personnel Recovery Centre in Colchester had anticipated the King's attendance at a veterans roundtable ahead of the game's closing weekend. Now staff admit they cannot guarantee which royals, if any, will come. Donations pledged by defence industry giants hinge on high-profile patronage. Lose that, and several rehabilitation programmes could shrink. The King's dilemma. Within Clarence House, advisors describe Charles's position as the loneliest triangle: duty to veterans, loyalty to Camilla, residual affection for a younger son who keeps lobbing public overtures from across the Atlantic. Insiders recall the monarch's Christmas broadcast, where he spoke of the power of togetherness. That line now haunts planning meetings. Togetherness with whom? At what cost to the Queen's Day? Some councillors argue that a fleeting, morning-only appearance in Birmingham, before returning to Windsor for evening festivities, would honour both ends of the equation. Others warn it would still hand Harry a moral victory. Footage of the king applauding Invictus athletes would outrank any later birthday toast. The sovereign must never look like his dancing to California's drumbeat, says one longtime court reporter. William, Stonewall or statesman? Friends insist the heir's silence is strategic, not petulant. He has adopted his grandmother's rulebook, one former equerry says. When private trust is broken, public words won't mend it. Yet critics counter that stonewalling might push floating young voters further towards indifference. A recent YouGov poll shows that among Britons aged 18 to 24, more than half admire Harry's veterans' work, while fewer than a third feel emotionally connected to the core monarchy. Inside Kensington Palace, William Senior Private Secretary has begun wargaming ways to assert the prince's own commitment to veterans without appearing as though he is snubbing Invictus. One option, launching a home-front mental health initiative with the UK's service charities, timed for the spring before the Games. He wants to say, look, support for soldiers isn't a Sussex patent, a planner reveals. Sussex calculations. In Montecito the mood is reportedly upbeat. PR advisors believe the invitation, issued first to the media, forces Buckingham Palace either to join the Games, or to appear chilly towards wounded warriors. Netflix, according to industry whispers, has reserved production crews should a historic royal reunion unfold. An insider claims the streaming giant views a father-son embrace on the Invictus stage as content gold, though palace officials bristle at the notion of the crown being reduced to a narrative beat. The Queen's milestone. While strategy memos swirl, one figure remains serenely central, Camilla. Courtiers say she is keenly aware of the logistical tempest, but believes her birthday weekend must proceed undiminished. A service of Thanksgiving in St. George's Chapel, a family luncheon under the Waterloo Chamber murals, a star-studded evening concert on the East Terrace, these elements have been in gestation for 2 years. Dress rehearsals for the Welsh Guards Band have already begun in barracks. The guest list includes reigning European monarchs, and several of the Queen's oldest friends from rural Gloucestershire. Rescheduling at this stage, a planner warns, would unleash a domino of diplomatic rewrites. Hook, mid-story cliffhanger. Sometime in the next few weeks a single line will appear in the court circular, detailing the King's engagements for that decisive weekend. When it does, Westminster insiders predict a political Richter reading. Will the sovereign commit to Birmingham? Will William's column stay resolutely blank? And could royal in-laws fill any awkward gaps? Subscribe now. Our newsroom will break that story the moment the ink dries. The constitutional calculus. Behind all the personal drama lurks a harder truth. The United Kingdom is quietly inching towards a general election. If the king is seen to favor his American-based son's project over domestic unity, Republic-leaning MPs may seize on the symbolism. On the other hand, ignoring Invictus could alienate Commonwealth nations with large veteran populations. Either route carries soft power consequences, says a former High Commissioner. Paths narrowing. Autumn will not wait. By late September, police rosters must be finalized. By early October, broadcasters require camera plots for both venues. Every week of indecision inflates overtime costs and saps goodwill. One weary organizer quips that even the pigeons in St. James's Park are cooing, just pick a lane. Closing hook. So, the stage is half-built, the orchestra warming its brass, yet the lead actors still linger behind velvet drapes. When the curtain finally rises on that summer weekend, Invictus medal ceremonies blazing, Windsor floodlights flickering, Britain will witness more than pageantry. It will glimpse whether the House of Windsor can still conduct its rival chords into a single anthem, or whether the royal soundtrack of this century is destined to play in haunting counterpoint. Tap the bell icon, so you don't miss our next bulletin as the diaries lock, the rehearsals tighten, and the crown chooses its spotlight.